So the first question of any good journalist is, would you please say and spell your name for us?
My name is Tracy Colson Antee. It's Tracy like a boy, Tracey, and my last name is Antee, Antee.
Thank you very much. Tracy, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Creole country in North Louisiana, in Natchitoches, Louisiana. I was born and raised there, and left probably when I was about 17 years old.
Okay. So in and around Natchitoches or in Natchitoches?
Yeah, I actually grew up in Natchitoches. My dad is originally from the Cane River area, about 20 minutes south of Natchitoches, which is one of the oldest Creole communities in Louisiana. My mom was born and raised in Los Angeles, and so she migrated to Louisiana. And that was the community that I grew up in. Even though we lived in Natchitoches proper, a lot of our family and their friends were around the Cane River area, so we spent a lot of time down there as well.
Okay. What was it like growing up in that community?
It was very different. I feel like I had a really great experience because of the fact that I was not only growing up in this very multicultural, diverse community, one, but secondly, that my mom was always very active and very vocal about things that she was very passionate about. And a lot of that was Creole culture. And so my mom, through volunteer work and then later helped to establish the Creole Heritage Center at Northwestern. So I grew up not only under the tutelage of my parents, like most people are, but also with multiple academics that studied cultural preservation, historical preservation, lots of anthropologists, lots of historians, authors, and artists. So I had this very unique and interesting childhood of being exposed to a lot of things that others weren't. And then my dad, his experience growing up in that area, what he learned, what his story was, really taught me how important story is and to preserve and learn and share that story. And that's what my dad does now. He's almost 80 years old and he's a storyteller and he does tours and he's kind of that person that people go to say, do you remember this person or do you remember? And he can tell you a story about every tree, house, part of the river down there. So that was an experience that I value so much because as I grew into doing more work with preserving Creole culture and promoting it and understanding that there were people all over the country that their parents, grandparents, or their descendants were from Louisiana and from that culture, never had those same experiences that I did. So that's why I hope that I can share a lot of that with different people.
That's really cool. I know the word Creole gets used a lot and probably misused a lot and then used, I know it's all over the spectrum, but I'm kind of a dummy. Can you give me a sort of introduction to Creole culture or what you mean when you say the Creole community and Creole culture and heritage?
And I think that you're absolutely right that there's a million definitions and everybody wants that very clear cut, fit in a box definition. And I think that's what makes Creole so unique is that you can't just type it out in words in a couple of sentences and stick it in a box. It's very much a culture. It's very much an ethnicity that has been here for generations on top of generations. And the story of a Creole family from North Louisiana is different from the story of a Creole family from South Louisiana. And I think it's really important that we kind of designate that and are aware of that. It's the same thing with French language. Someone is going to speak a certain way because of the community that they were raised in, will speak French in that way, whereas it will sound totally different and the same words will be used but will have different meanings in another area. But the way that I explain what Creole is, because that's what I get asked a lot, is we are a culture of people that we were original to here. We are Native American, we are Spanish, we are African American, we are French, and we are a whole bunch of other things also included in that. And I think that what Creoles did throughout Louisiana was to pull different things from each one of those cultures, from each part of them, and create foodways and create languages and create traditions that have carried on through the generations, have been passed down. I think it's really important that we identify culturally and that we are educated on what that is, and Creole is no different. We, as a family, you know, my mom really took that stance of wanting to educate and promote it because she did grow up in California. She heard all the stories from her parents, specifically from her dad, who was born and raised around the Marksville area, but she had never experienced it. She had never seen it. So she had that experience coming here, and she wanted to share, this is the lifestyle, this is the culture, this is what I'm able to see and experience every day with her family back home, and it just kind of spread. But I think that we've come a long way. The early 90s is really when this kind of Creole renaissance began, and there were many grants and lots of funding that was provided for the preservation and promotion of it, whether it was through language or through architecture, you know, specific buildings and structures. You know, I tell everybody Creole, you know, they're like, well, you're Creole. I'm like, yep, if you tip me over and shake me, seasoning is not going to come out the top of my head. We're more than just food, and Creole food does not mean spicy food, and Creole does not just mean food. Creole means certain family traditions. It's meeting someone that you identify and you know that's a Creole person right there, and that learning curve is gone because you know that you were raised similarly. All of the definition of what culture is, if you take those little things out, you can apply specific things about Creole culture and see that it's a true culture and it's something that should be preserved because it's such an important part of what Louisiana is, and it really makes us unique, and it sets us apart, and it identifies us as kind of this mecca for Creole people all over the world that do come and visit.
Thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
Did you go to college?
A couple of times.
A couple of times?
Yeah. Yeah, I
myself.
went, I left Natchitoches in 1995, and I came to UL when it was still USL.
Yeah.
That was that long ago. And I went to school for a little bit, and then I actually joined the military. I was in the United States Navy for a number of years before I left. And then just recently as in the past couple of years, I've returned to school, and I'm going to Northwestern State University to get my bachelor's in psychology right now.
Cool. Was that your motivation for coming to South Louisiana, coming to school?
That was the reason why I first came. Mm-hmm. I've left and come back many times. This is my third time moving back to the Acadiana area, and I'm not leaving. I tell everybody this is my second home. It's just has always felt right. I always loved Lafayette and just thought it was interesting even then, and it's been exciting to see how much it's changed. From when I moved here in 1995, how different it looks, and how you see the development and you see the introduction of so many new and unique people to this area, and that's what just makes me love it so much. But school is what brought me here. I was a visual arts major when I first came, and was really excited at what the creative community was at that time, and to see where it is now it's like, yep, I was right. It's that kind of feeling.
That's cool. So we're keeping you here.
Yeah,
Good.
Keeping me here.
Well, that's great. Did you, when you were growing up, you had mentioned that your parents were your mentors. Were there any other mentors that you could mention by name, or specific maybe stories of interactions with some of your other mentors?
Yeah, I think there were a few, and I know that I'm very grateful for the people that I was able to be introduced to and have around me. One of those was Terrell Delphin. He was very instrumental in establishing the Creole Heritage Center at Northwestern, and very vocal about it. He was an activist in a lot of ways, and truly was a man ahead of his time, but was very vocal in helping me to at a very young age, because I think I was probably 14 years old the first time I stood in front of a group of people and talked about Creole and being proud about it, and there weren't very many people my age doing that. There really wasn't any at that point, because this was early 90s again, but I feel like he really gave me the courage to do it, and backed me up and gave me good information and data that I could use, and taught me how to engage with people, how to engage with a large group of people, because he just had, you just meet those people that have that gift and they're able to just inspire you and really speak a lot of knowledge. And that was one of the things that I watched him, I studied him and how he did that. And he did so much for Creole culture, did so much for a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And he's no longer with us, but I'm very, very proud to have that time with him. Another person would be Clementine Hunter. She's a very well-known folk artist from Louisiana, from Natchitoches specifically. And I had the opportunity as a very, very small child to be around her when she was painting, when she was in her late 90s. And I remember that very well, her hands specifically, and watching her paint and made me want to be an artist and want to create. And I just thought, I knew then that it was magical. So it makes me very proud to see how well recognized she is and her work now, and being able to grow up and be around her family, later too, and knowing them. But she was really who inspired me to create and to feel like I could do whatever I wanted and it was okay. It didn't have to be perfect, that art could look a million different ways. So she would definitely be someone else that truly inspired me. But I always go back to my mom, Jeanette Colson. She did so much, not just for the culture, but I think for women in general. And she really stepped out of a box that totally existed at that time and didn't feel like nothing was not available to her. She just did it and taught herself so many things. And her kind of way of approaching something was to say, somebody created this, and if they created it, then I can figure it out. And her thing was always, I figured it out, you can too. And she taught herself and all kinds of things, how to build a website when the internet only existed between universities. Like, kids don't remember that now, but I remember that. I remember typing in pages and pages of code to create programs, because that was the only way you could run them, and then press and run at the end. Nobody else was doing that, and she's in this small town in, North Louisiana, and teaching herself all these things, and being very outspoken about it, and never giving up, never feeling like this wasn't, it wasn't possible, and always knowing that it was, and just now looking at all of the things she has accomplished, and also hearing from others the impact that she had. Now when I talk to friends of mine that have their PhD and they're teaching, and they went to her when they were, doing their coursework to get their PhD, it makes me very, very proud to see the work that she's done, and definitely instilled in myself and my older sister that we could do whatever we wanted to do, and the only thing that was keeping us from doing it was ourselves, and she really, really pushed us. So I love my mom. I'm so proud of her.
That's great. It sounds like you had a lot of really good teachers when you were growing up. If you could distill that advice, would you have one piece of advice that would be your favorite to give to young people who are coming up and maybe looking for some inspiration? Or
I think one of my current thing that I'm preaching a lot, and I guess I just recently had a milestone birthday and turned 40 and freaked out and was like, okay, now is the time. But it's just do it. Whatever that idea is, whatever it is you want to say, whatever thing you feel is really important to you, or makes your blood boil, or whatever it is, that thing that's nagging at you, you have that voice. You know what you want to do. You have zero limitations. Just do it. Just start. Because today you start, then tomorrow you've already gotten that much farther ahead. But if you continue to wait and put things off, and I think as we get older, it's like, oh, now's not the right time, let me just wait. I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. Start now. Don't wait. Don't wait for the perfect time, because perfect will never happen. But just start, and if you fail, learn from it. Absolutely look at that failure and say, these are the things that I could do differently. I tell everybody. I have no regrets. I didn't, you know, at no point in time was my life perfect, but everything that's happened, I have a very specific lesson that I've learned from it. So just start now, start and do it. And if it doesn't work, then that just meant that you needed to do something else, but don't wait.
Well, thank you for sharing that with the young people. Are you still practicing visual arts?
I am, and I think you know, and I think us as artists do this, and we change what we're doing, and you know how we're doing stuff. So I'm still painting. I've never stopped painting on whatever surface I can find usually. So I'm still doing that, but doing some other things too, and really teaching myself how to do more graphic design and how to create art that I can share with more people in different ways. So that's one of the things that I'm working on. But I think in addition to the visual arts is I'm really writing a lot more now, and really wanting to help people kind of create their story. So I look at that as my art. I think it's one of those things that I enjoy a lot, and that I feel is really important, is that people have their story, that they know their story, and that they're able to tell it, and just working with people to kind of craft that and help them develop it.
That's very cool. All right, let's talk a little bit about your involvement with AOC. So tell me how you first got involved with AOC.
It really was a conversation between my best friend and we were brainstorming what can we do next. And we have both become podcast junkies. And the more that I listened and the more that we talked about it, we were like, this is what we really need to do. And she has been a member for a number of years. So I literally took a day off work and came and hung out for a few hours a couple of months ago, and was just totally blown away by all of what's available, and not just you know, physical items that are available, but the people and the sense of working together, and oh, this person is here and they know how to do this, let me ask them, and this person is there, and you know, just there's such a sense of family and collaboration, which I love. So I'm really looking forward to spending even more time here and getting my podcast started. But just being in this space has brought up a lot of other ideas of things that I could do, and really wanting to introduce people to what the AOC is as a community and what possibilities are there. So I'm really excited.
That's exciting for us too. What surprised you most about working with AOC?
How much it's changed. It's been a while, and it's very exciting to see the progress and to see what's here in this. You know, when you are in a space that, you know, it's a special thing when you walk into a space and you can feel that this is where you belong. And that's one of the things that I really like about being here. But it's very exciting to see how much it's changed and how much it's progressed, and what all is available. I'm a mom of 2 teenage boys, and when I came here that day, I was coming to, you know, specifically to join, to find out about, you know, what was available, and first was totally blown away by that, but also was really excited to see the possibilities of things for them to do and how to involve them and give them an opportunity to learn things that they're not necessarily going to learn in school. And I was very surprised about that, and that was something that I didn't know was available. So I'm excited that they have the opportunity to do some things with me as well.
Cool. So you talked about the podcast, and that may be the answer, but what do you think, or maybe you're still formulating the answer, what is your dream project to work on or produce?
Oh, there's so many. So the first thing would be the podcast. Secondly, I would hope to do some form of a show that could be shared. My audience, the people that I connect with for the most part, are not in Louisiana. And it's basically giving them, here's a snapshot, I want you to feel like you're here. But now knowing what's available here, I feel like I have the ability and the potential to do a whole lot more than what the original idea was. So that's really exciting too, and sharing it with people. But I think that would be my thing is this podcast that I want to do is not just it's not a for me thing, but it's really to expose other people to the characters that are what is Louisiana, and to share with them these are all the things that we do, but also to introduce people to my tribe and to my connections and my people that are in different places and the ones that are doing the work, and really have that ability to share and collaborate. I want to do this to where somebody in California is listening to a filmmaker that's local here that's working on a Creole project, and they're like, oh, you know what, I have something I can contribute to that. That's what I hope to come out of it. So I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to the next couple of months to getting that off and going.
That's a really cool sounding project. What are you looking forward to for the rest of 2017?
2017 is big. So I am looking forward to transitioning into my entrepreneurship full-time, which I'll do in the next couple of months, getting involved with other organizations and with groups that are that I'm interested in, that I just haven't had the time to devote, but really starting to work one-on-one with people, developing my podcast, growing my writing, putting out more content. I feel like this time is very important. I'm also working on a project to really encourage people to vote next year during our midterm elections. I think it's really important that people are educated not only by why it's important to vote, because I think we just kind of blandly say that, but we don't really tell people the how it's going to impact you. So that's kind of one of my other side projects. I'm hoping, one of my 50 side projects, I'm hoping to get off the ground before the end of the year, just to really make a push to gather a group of people together and really share why it's important. Just kind of like Civics 101. I think we forget as we get older, but just to really get out and share that within our communities throughout Acadiana.
Awesome. All right. Are you a fan of music?
I am a fan of music.
Then what bands or artists would you include in your all-time favorite playlist?
Ooh, that's hard. My all-time favorite playlist. So the first thing that pops in my head, and so you'll totally know how old I am, is 4 Non Blondes. That's the first thing that pops in my head, because I just think that was such an epic album. It's just, like a soundtrack. Anything by Prince, again, totally showing my age, but he's just so fantastic. I would also say, who do I love a whole bunch? I love Diana Ross. I just think she's so powerful, and she's such a queen and a diva, and I absolutely love it. I sing very badly her music every single day when I'm by myself, so that's I would definitely say that's kind of like my top 3. You have your go-to things. I love Jill Scott and Erykah Badu and Amy Winehouse. I'll love her forever, and just that kind of I like a lot of women. You see that? But it's kind of, that's my my background music to work to, and things are moving around in my head, and music is my that's my quiet space. Even though it's sound, that's when I can really focus and block everything out. That's the only thing that works for me, and those are kind of that's my go-to playlist of what's playing when I'm in my creative mood.
Well, what would you say, or could you say, what draws you to female artists or women?
I guess a lot of it is the message, depending on what it is, and I guess a lot of those artists, I see in them a lot of strength, but also a lot of pain, and to see what comes out of that, I think is really, I think it's one of those things that really inspires me, and when I'm in that mode, But just, you hear stories and, oh, what's right and what's wrong. But when you really listen to the music and when you really listen to the words, I mean, it's a story. Again, I look at everything as it comes back to story, and I think that's what it is. It's that shared experiences and that shared pain, but I'm seeing how it's being worked through and that it's put into a musical form, and it's like that is part of my story. That song represents a part of me. I experience that, and just that kind of mutual connection that you're not alone. I think that's a lot of the reason why I kind of connect to some of those artists.
As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a policewoman, always and forever. I have no idea why. I guess it was just like, I wanted truth and justice, and I felt like that was the way to do it. I guess when I got really towards the end of high school, I was like, oh, maybe that's not what I want to do, because I was so into my art and was just so, blinders on, single-minded. That's what I wanted to do. But still, am addicted to it, I guess, in a way. I think it's funny now that that's what I wanted to be, but I think that my reasons for doing it was just that I felt like being in law enforcement would be someone that people could trust and that they could look up to and they could depend on, and that now as an adult looking back on it, I think it was always that innate sense of wanting to take care of everybody and protect everyone in my world and let me fix it. I'm a fixer 100%. So I think that's where that came from. But yeah, always.
When I was growing up, I wanted to be a cop and then a comedian.
Oh, nice.
I know. Let's see. All right, we're going to ask some out there questions, or maybe some job interview questions. If you were a season, which one would you be and why?
A season like spring, summer, fall. Mm-hmm. I would be fall. I think it's my favorite because it's kind of it's a shedding. The leaves change colors. They fall from the trees. The days get cooler. They start to get shorter. But I just think it's a transitional time for me. Every year, but I like that it's time to change, and that it's very representative that things don't stay the same. So that's why I like it. I always have. It's my favorite. I could live in fall all the time.
Just to follow up to that, and I don't know if you have the answer or not, but a lot of people are scared of change and changing things. What would you say it is that makes you attracted to or excited about change?
I think it's just that we have the ability to do so. I think that people get very stagnant and stuck in whatever space that they're in, and I think that they don't realize that they have the ability to change. We are not a tree. We're not stuck in the ground. We can move around and we can do different things. I guess that's kind of my connection to fall, is like, yep, that leaf has been there, and we watched it grow and it's green, and now we're going to watch it change, and it's going to change colors, and then it's going to fall, and that whole process is going to start all over again. So what's horrible today won't be horrible 6 months from now. You can change that situation. We have the ability to do anything. It's all in the million decisions that we make every single day. And I think that if people would embrace change and what that truly is, that we would be in a much better place than what we're in right now.
Sound advice. What is your superpower?
I have so many, because I think I'm Wonder Woman and Harry Potter, like all in one person. It's my geek side. I think it, well, for one, the one that everyone knows about, that I let people see, is that I have superpowered hugs. I believe that a hug is one of the most sincere and beautiful gifts that you can give somebody. I hug everybody deeply And sometimes I think that we just need to be quiet and just give somebody a hug when they need it. So that's what I do. I have friends that will drive 2 hours to come and give me a hug, because I look at it as my way of taking that stress, fear, worry, pain, whatever is happening, that I can't fix everything, but you can come and lean on me for a minute and let me just take some of that off of you so you can just breathe for a couple of minutes. And that's what I've always looked at as being my superpower. I've done a previous job that I had when I lived in Alexandria. I did a lot of work with the homeless, and one of the guys that I would see a lot, he would tell me, "You're the only person that touches me." He said, I see you once a month, and you're the only person that touches me once a month. He said, because people don't want to get close to me. They feel like I'm dirty. They think that I smell. And that was what I did. I would go out there just to hug everybody that was there, to hug them, to thank them for their volunteering, for things that they were donating, to hug our homeless community and say that you're not alone. And just because it's science that, human touch and interaction is very important. And when you take that away from somebody, that can impact them in so many ways. So I think that's super important. But I'm really proud of my hugging superpower abilities.
That's a good one. What is your spirit animal and why?
It is an owl. They're everywhere. I have an owl tattoo. I have owls all over my house. I have owl everything. And I think I look at an owl as being my symbol of hope and freedom as well. I think a lot of us don't feel free. And that is what I think about when I look at my owls, and wisdom, and how important it is to continue to learn, that our learning never stops. I think, people think of an owl, they think of like the cute cartoon owl with the glasses on, and that's, and they think about, the wise old owl, and that's true, but their eyes and the being able to see so much more than what we do. But that's what I think about, is that freedom and that wisdom, and that, I'm watching you, and I'm here, and you're not doing what you're supposed to, so let's get to it. We're wasting time here. So that's kind of, that's why I have my owl on my foot, because he goes with me everywhere I go.
Is he, to clarify, is the owl watching you, or you as the owl watching?
No, my owl is watching me. It's like, I see you. What are you doing?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, your little, your angel and your demon on your shoulder going, I really just want to lay on the couch and watch Netflix for 6 hours. And he's like, I'm going to need you to get up and go be productive. And what are you doing today? So that's what that is, because I always kick my foot up. So he's always close to me.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I love it.
It's really neat.
So since I got this owl, tattoo 5 years ago. 2 weeks later, I met the love of my life. Got engaged a few months after that. Moved here. Got a dream job, and met wonderful people, and have had really great opportunities. So that's why this is my good luck. It's got to stay with me. Uh-huh.
Sounds like some good luck there.
Yeah.
And feel free to pass on this, but what is the one thing about you few people know?
I kind of had this conversation the other day, that I cry every day. And it may be in the morning when I'm taking a shower. It might be at night when nobody's really around. And it's not out of sadness. I think it's out of that's how I get rid of my anxiety, my stress. I have lived with severe anxiety and chronic depression since I was probably about 16 years old. So my way to fix it, to change and start new is that's how I get it out. And it's just kind of like, okay, I shook it off and it's over with and I can move on. And I said that to someone the other day and they were like, I didn't think you ever cried. You're so, you have it together and you're always so calm. And I'm like, well, I am. And I feel like I have to be that for the people that are around me. And sometimes it's a lot of weight to carry. And that's just my way of kind of shedding a few of, those extra pounds of stress and, that tension that you carry on you. And that's kind of my, oh, that's what's wrong, I didn't cry today. That's kind of where I'm at sometimes. So I think that's something that people don't realize. And like silly stuff makes me cry too.
Yeah. I think everybody has a little of that because we're all trying not to cry. So sometimes it just takes that story on NPR or whatever.
Exactly. And I think that people look at it as, that scene, especially for men, as like a sign of weakness. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I see it as a sign of strength, of having the strength to cry in front of someone, especially, as a man, and to have the ability to recognize and express that emotion. And to feel that much, I think is something that we should value more. Again, as a mom of 2 teenage boys, I would never want them to feel like they would have to hide that emotion or hide that feeling from their friends or, from their coach or anything like that, that it's not about weakness. It's about being unique and being strong and having courage in the face of what other people look at as not.
Solid. All right, I think I have one more question for you.
Okay.
And that is, can you describe yourself in 3 words?
3 words. Impatient. I'm trying to think of some good words. Impatient was the very first one because that's so true. Kind. Focused.
I think those are that's probably the most versatile 3-word set that we've got. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I had to think hard on that one.
Tracy, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.